Hello and welcome to the Elder Tree podcast. My name is Twiggy Dawn, founder of the Elder Tree and Alchemilla Herbals. You are listening to the Herbal Educators segment, where each new moon I will be inviting a series of guests to chat about the world of herbal education, about their passions and motivations, and their dreams for the future of herbal medicine in Australia. Good morning, everyone. Today I am very excited to be sharing with you all this wonderful interview with Alyson Maier from Green Heart Herbals. Alyson is a shamanic, naturopathic and herbal practitioner in the Glasshouse Mountains in Queensland. She is also an author, a teacher, and runs a myriad of courses, workshops and classes, both online and in person. I was very excited to interview Alyson, as she's a great source of inspiration and supportive energy for me and for the Elder Tree. I chose Alyson to be the first person that I interview for the Herbal Education segment because I've been watching her closely for some time now and building a relationship with her, and I feel that she really embodies so much of the Elder Tree vision. She works with the plants directly on the mental, physical, emotional and spiritual levels. She's passionate about sharing what she knows in a truly humble way. She's also passionate about grassroots herbalism, about creating a symbiotic relationship with other herbalists in Australia. She absolutely thrives on seeing other people sharing their gifts, and she's incredibly supportive and encouraging to those around her. I really want to choose people for this segment who are collaborative in nature, not competitive. And Alyson is wonderfully collaborative, and she loves to see others succeed in living their dreams. I was very excited to interview Alyson, as she's a great source of inspiration and supportive energy for me and for the Elder Tree, having donated a couple of books to a recent raffle and being a very empowering energy for the vision. In this interview, Alyson shares some deep wisdom on living in reciprocity with the earth, treating herbal medicine not as a commodity, allowing plants to become your family, and about how knowledge belongs to the people. We talk about co-creating a movement together rather than just purely servicing our own communities, and about the importance of passing on traditional knowledge through story. I uncover her motivations for being a herbal educator and how knowledge is the medicine that we are giving as educators, and also about how sharing her wisdom gives her heart-expanding joy. In our talk, we discuss Estri Learning, a wonderful not-for-profit organisation of which we're both members. I feel as though I could talk for hours and hours with Alyson and revel in her deep wisdom and breadth of knowledge. I love what she shares about humans being a part of nature and her dreams for the future of herbal medicine in Australia, one that we're all creating together. I hope that you enjoy this interview as much as I enjoyed it myself. Hello, Alyson, and welcome to the Herbal Education segment of the Elder Tree podcast.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here and for being the first amazing, inspiring person that I interview on the Herbal Education segment.
I am so excited to be here, and I'm so excited that you're doing this podcast. This is something that I think the herbal community, let alone the normal community, will thrive to listen to each month. It'll be lovely.
Well, thank you. So yeah, I've been following your work for some time, and I really appreciate the depth of your work as a practitioner, as a author, and as a teacher. And I know that you have quite a broad diversity of your education, from doing a few different degrees and certificates. And I also know that you're quite passionate about grassroots herbalism. So I yeah, and I know that you've also had a bunch of other teachers and influences along your journey. So I'd love to start off with hearing a bit about your journey to become a herbalist and a herbal educator. And in particular, I would love to know who've been your main teachers and what influences and experiences have shaped your path as a practitioner and educator.
Wow, what a beautiful question to start with. That's amazing. Like you said, I have had a bit of a mixed bag journey with my education. I started in conventional care in oncology, and then even worked in the corporate side, but I always had this longing. I grew up on the land and I was always connected to it, and I always believed, even though I had no family history of herbalism in my family, I always knew that natural medicine was on the cards for me. Um, so when I started my family, I delved right into the world of naturopathy and herbalism. Um, and after I graduated, I moved to Germany because my husband is German, and it's a medicine chest over there. And I was just so immersed in all of these beautiful herbal medicines that we'd only learnt about in books and that I'd only seen on PowerPoint presentations. And it was just this magical abundance. It was really incredible to immerse myself in the natural world. And of course, my lineage comes from Europe, so I got to walk with the ancestors. So they were a huge teacher for me. The plants themselves are a huge teacher and influence. But of course, as I started to become more confident with my foraging and wildcrafting experiences in the German forests, I found online, thanks to the world that we currently live in, beautiful herbal educators as well. So one of those was Yarrow Willard, actually. He's based in Canada and he's a grassroots herbalist. And he follows his father's footsteps, and he's got a really great movement happening in Canada. And I loved his spiritual connection with the earth, as well as his application of the herbs in today's modern society. Um, and I have to attribute a lot of my teachings to the late Maria Treben. She was an Austrian herbalist. She wrote, I think it's called In God's Pharmacy, something along those lines. And she became a very practical teacher for me. Her teachings were exactly that. They were practical, they were simple, everybody can apply them, and it's just really family pharmacy that comes from the earth. So I learnt very quickly that all of the myriad of herbs that we'd learnt in college, you actually didn't even need half of them, because even though I was living in a forest with abundance of them, you can adapt very simple herbs under a multitude of scenarios and health conditions. And the plants and nature are just so wise, and they know how to work with you if you're willing and you're open. And it's just, the journey of the plants was really an incredible teaching for me, in terms of trusting as well what I had learnt in Australia, and then able to apply to either my health or my family's health. So it was a pretty magical journey, actually.
Oh, that's really beautiful. That must have been a really amazing experience to get to connect to your like ancestral, with your German lineage of working with plants. And yeah, Yarrow Willard's an amazing teacher.
He is, isn't he? Yes, his passion just comes through in everything that he's teaching. It's applicable, it's practical. And like you said, that ancestral knowledge, I really felt like they were walking with me through the fields. And those experiences that I had in those forests, it just filled my heart. It was just incredible. I know I've walked this path before. It came alive again. The whispers of my ancestors were there, and that is what influenced me to grow as a practitioner and to share what I was experiencing.
Oh, that's really beautiful. It sounds like quite a broad spectrum of different teachers have come in your life to shape you to who you've become now. And so, yeah, I'm curious then, what has made you want to start teaching other people herbalism? Like, what has been your inspiring points to want to share your knowledge with others?
The first and foremost is connection. The people today have lost their connection with their origins, with the earth, with nature. They forget that they're a part of nature. And once we really start to remember our intricate belonging and interconnectedness with the nature spirits, the plants, and their phenomenal nutrition, medicine, offerings for us, I think, the ability for us to live in reciprocity with the earth will come back. And also to empower the people. I really believe this knowledge belongs to the people and not to industry. This is the way humans have lived for millennia. And we hold this beautiful torch, this flame within us, those of us that walk this path and that, are fortunate enough to have this connection. And I really believe it's our responsibility to share it, because it's not a commodity. It is something that we all belong to. And with that connection, people will remember to give back and to take care. Like, once you've had a plant that has impacted your health in such a powerful way, you nurture that plant. You think, I'm going to protect that plant, because that is just the most magical thing. And then when your inner library, if you like, expands of what these plants are and how they can help you and your family and your friends and your community, then your cupboard or living room, if you like, expands. Your family expands, because these plants become your family, and you want to protect them all, because you realize that they need us and we need them, and the animals need them as well. And it's just this beautiful reminder of the importance of nature and nurture.
Beautiful. Wow, there's an incredible amount of wisdom in everything that you just shared there, Alyson. Thank you so much for that. I particularly love the part about plants becoming your family, because I really feel that myself, and really connects to everything you said about knowledge belonging to the people and living in reciprocity with nature and all of that. It's really, really beautifully put. Thank you. So I'm curious, what are some of the hidden and perhaps unexpected gems in becoming an educator and bringing these wisdom to your community?
Absolute heart expanding joy, to know that, we are in a unique position to be able to carry this information and to share it with people, and just the joy that comes from them when somebody is shown such a simple kitchen remedy and they can't believe its effectiveness. And you can really see how blown away they are, because, we live in a society at the moment that overcomplicates things. And unless there's a complex solution, people don't believe in the power that it holds. And so when you tell someone that one single plant can stop bleeding, or one plant can assist in stroke recovery, which these days we're fortunate to have the scientific studies to really validate these traditional claims. It's just astounding to see their disbelief turn into belief. And when you can share with them clinical stories and even personal stories, and then they are able to implement these things in their life, people learn through experience. And when they have these experiences themselves through really practical, simple measures, that stuff stays with them. That is the medicine that we're giving through these plants, because this is knowledge and it's story. And that's the way all this stuff has always been passed down through the generations, and it stays with people. It impacts them and it stays in their heart.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I really connect with that as well. You know, what you said about people learning through experience, because there's only so much that you can, retain and learn from learning through books and through learning online on the computer. So much for real, truly embodied learning. We really need to have that through personal experience and hands-on experience.
Absolutely.
So yeah, what's available in Australia in terms of herbal education is really different to other countries, as you probably would have seen when you were in Germany, and as you've probably seen through, following teachers like Yarrow Willard, who has come to where he is through his lineage, through learning from his father. And there's so many different ways to become a herbalist in other countries. It's very different in Australia. So yeah, what I suppose the question is, what is your ideal for Australia? Like, what kind of herbal education opportunities would you like to see become available in the years to come?
Oh, wow. This just opens my dream chest. I love this question. I would love to see more hands on self sufficient herbalism farms to come as part of the clinical application of the learnings, because of course we do live in the world of duality, and in the medical frame we've got the scientific side of things that we need to adhere to, but we can't discredit the absolute plethora of traditional wisdom. And I know science likes to validate these things, and it is important, but honestly, thousands and thousands of years of evidence, and thriving cultures and tribes around the world can really attest to the power of these plants. So I would love to see an education in herbalism that had a grow, harvest, make model. I really think that is imperative for people to connect to the plants, to connect to the innate wisdom, to connect with the spirit of the plants, but also to see how effective they are in small doses. The scientific model that is taught in the education system here at the moment is, if you're familiar with, as you and I are, but more broadly to your audience, with the way the teaching is done at the moment and the scientific model, we have to be able to write a scientific paper, adhere to certain criteria. And the beauty of nature and the beauty of these plants is they can't necessarily be put in a corner or put in a box to, in all its senses, meet the scientific model criteria. So this is where we need that balance. We need that recognition, because that's the world that we live in. And as much as I love grassroots herbalism, I also acknowledge that at the moment that's where our society is, and for it to come into play in balance, we need to accept that. But to accept that, we honestly need this balance, this acceptance, and acknowledgement of the energetic, spiritual side and the hands on side of working with these plants. And I know that there's brilliant naturopaths in Australia. They are so clinically astute. There are brilliant herbalists in Australia. But can you imagine just how phenomenal they would be? Even more phenomenal if they had this grow, harvest, make model as part of their own education, because they're already doing astounding things. But if they got out with the plants, first of all, the cost of their treatments would go down, because they would see how simple it is, and that we wouldn't need, a whole dispensary of all these exotic herbs. And we've seen through the pandemic, I'm getting off on a bit of a tangent here, but we've seen through the pandemic what supply chain issues we have had. And if people are brought back through their education to the simplicity of growing these things and how to make these medicines, to not only teach and empower your clients and your community, but for your own apothecary, your own dispensary, then you practice with a lighter footprint. The manufacturers aren't going to like that comment, because they do tremendous work. But I have to say it, because, this is the world that we live in, and the supply chains are volatile, and the ecosystem is volatile. We're seeing big changes at the moment, and we need to be able to work in with nature herself. She's unhappy, and we need to be able to nurture her in a way to bring that balance back.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I totally connect with that. I would also love to see it become the norm to have the grow, harvest, and make model, as you put it. And how wonderful would it be for the universities to have that more integrated into their curriculum? I remember one of the universities that I did in the herbal medicine making, in the herbal manufacturing part of the subject, we learnt it in a room that had no windows. It was like literally a box, you know, in artificial lights, and all of the herbs we were working with weren't locally grown. Though the teacher, mind you, that we had, he had a beautiful herb farm and had a lot of personal connection to the plants, but that kind of couldn't come through in the teachings. We weren't able to be you know, actually having the plants in front of us and working with them. And yeah, it's definitely a massive loop in the chain that's missing, isn't it, in the education now? So I really hope that to see in years to come for that part to change, and for that kind of cycle to become whole, and people to be able to learn, you know, any and all parts of it, to learn the scientific parts, and to be able to, you know, break things apart and put them back together again, but also to have the connection to the plants, and have you know, an understanding of how to grow and harvest them, even if they're not choosing to grow and harvest them themselves. But yeah, I think that should be part of the learning for any herbalist and naturopath. So yeah, thank you for everything that you shared.
Absolutely. And how blessed were you that you had a teacher that had their own farm? But like you said, you know, that there's such a connection that forms when you're able to pick the leaf of a living plant and to have a nibble. You know, those senses come into play that you wouldn't necessarily have in a closed room with no windows.
Most definitely. One I also did a week long intensive at Pindari Farm in Tasmania, where we harvested everything fresh, and made the medicine. The teacher and the person that ran the farm was pharmaceutically trained. He was previously a pharmacist, so it was very rigorous, very precise learning environment. So, but he was also very connected with the energetics and like the spirituality. Of the plants as well. So that those teachers, unfortunately, are fairly few and far between nowadays in Australia. But yeah, I really see that's going to change in years to come. So yeah, and you know, that's what we're also going to be providing at the Elder Tree as well.
Yes, an
Mm.
incredible experience. And the Elder Tree is just, I'm so excited for what you guys are focusing on for the future. And I really wish you all so much success because, you know, that top end of Australia is a bit remote, as you would know. And that sort of wisdom being passed through the collective communities is just such a blessing. And yeah, I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much for that. There are actually a few exciting groups that have been forming, a few different non-profit organisations that have been forming that really advocate for grassroots herbalism in Australia. One of them in particular that I'd love to talk with you about is Estuary Learning, which I know that you're a member of, because so am I, and you invited me to become a member. And I'm really loving the space and really loving the vision of Estuary Learning and everything that they're creating, and all of the beautiful healers and educators that are involved with this project. So, would you mind sharing with the listeners that don't already know a little bit about Estuary Learning?
Of course, it would be my pleasure. So, Estuary Learning was founded. Now, I do apologise if I miss some of the original founders, but Nancy Evelyn has really put together a beautiful family, or a collective, if you like, of grassroots practitioners. It's a not for profit education and mentoring movement that really wants to enrich and support the art of natural earth medicine in Australia. It's, I guess, a philosophy that is very similar to your elder tree, which is just magnificent. And, you know, a lot of us herbalists, we really do. It's a solo type of a mission. We're out, we're doing our work, we're serving our communities, sometimes in politically difficult environments, particularly in the last few years. And this sort of a collective or family, I'd like to call it, is a really important umbrella for all of us earth-based practitioners to share our traditional wisdom and to express within that traditional wisdom the balance of the plant medicine and the energy medicine, or the energetics that come from that. And as we know in the past, of certain cultures around the world, some of them, particularly if we look at the indigenous cultures in Australia, they weren't necessarily a written culture. And whilst our forefathers in Europe and the Americas, we do have texts to refer back to, the landscape that we work in here in Australia is very diverse, and we can thankfully adapt our European herbals. But there's a lot of beautiful bush medicine here as well. And it's one of my aims, and I'm not there yet. It's a work in progress for me. But it's one of my aims to be more immersed in the traditional bush medicines, again, because it comes back to sustainability and self sufficiency. And I think it's important. These lands hold so much wisdom. And if during my growth as a practitioner and a herbalist, and just a human that's part of nature walking these beautiful soils, if I am able to learn from the land around me and then pass that on, what a beautiful legacy that would be. So, estuary learning is a collective and a family of treasuring that traditional wisdom. So then those future generations can hopefully learn and grow from our collective knowledge.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, I really see that a lot of the philosophies behind estuary learning are really similar to a lot of the core philosophies behind the elder tree as well. And I really, really love what they're doing because, you know, what you said about so many herbalists and naturopaths around Australia I suppose, are quite isolated and, uh, you know, they're all kind of doing their own thing, and so to have these spaces that create a family, you know, around Australia, just help to really hold that in a collective way, and help us to all feel part of a movement that we're all co-creating together, rather than each one of us just serving our communities. It's like combined, the force of us all, we're serving something far larger than just our communities. You know, we're serving our whole country, and I really look forward to, you know, the future to come as well in regards to what you're saying with traditional bush medicines. I really look forward to seeing where we go with that as a collective, and how much more that can get integrated into the herbalism model in Australia. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. And yeah, there's just so much that can be taken from these sorts of families and communities and collectives that are growing. And it's, it's important for us practitioners too. And I think whilst we honour the traditions, we also honour our ancestors who have practiced these beautiful traditions. And, they are able to live through us. And, I hope that as I mature as a herbalist, I am able to then tap into their wisdom even greater, to be able to bring it through and connect with beautiful practitioners like you, and, the likes of Pat Collins in New South Wales, and many, many more who are just doing incredible work with their communities.
Hmm. A hold to that. Now, I would really love to talk about your beautiful children's book series. Not only are you an educator and a naturopathic, herbal, and shamanic practitioner, but you're also an author of a absolutely wonderful children's herbal adventure series. I actually have the plantain medicine book and the dandelion medicine book, both of which I was reading again to my stepdaughter last night, and she just absolutely loves them. Yeah, I see so much value in educating the next generation about herbal medicine. And as far as I've seen, your books are the only children's herbal medicine book series to be published in Australia. So they're very valuable, and I think that everyone, herbalist or not, should have it in their collection for their children. So yeah, I'd just love for
Oh,
you to share with us a bit about
thank
your
you.
children's herbal book series. And in particular, I'd love to know what your intention is behind creating them, and what your journey has been with bringing them forward to the world.
First of all, I absolutely love that you're sharing these with your stepdaughter and that she loves them. Thank you so much for sharing them and for your beautiful words there. I have a 9-year-old myself, and storytelling is a big part of our family routine. Before we go to bed, we read stories. And I remember when he was small, there was very few herbal books around that were story. There's herbal books you can buy for kids that, are beautifully illustrated accounts of herbal plants and things. But in terms of story, and again, this comes back to the point that we were talking about earlier with regards to experience and just having a story to take away with you. Cultures all around the world have passed on their traditional knowledge through story. And that was one of the principles behind creating these books, is because people take with them story. They resonate with story. And if you can relate it to something that's real in their life, they're more likely to hold on to that knowledge and wisdom. I really want to inspire kids to know what is growing outside around them. And in doing so, I also want mum and dad to be inspired. Hopefully, as their children say, "Mum, I want to go out and pick a dandelion." Everybody knows a dandelion. Then mum and dad are curious and they're supportive, and their unit of inquiry grows. And so, because it's written and it's passed on by somebody who works in this industry, I'm hoping then they have the confidence to share with their children the fact that you can eat a dandelion, and that these things that we call weeds, they're not pests. They're actually really beneficial, not just for the us, but for the ecosystem as well. And as you mentioned, I've got a couple of other books there. There's plantain medicine, which is a beautiful, very prolific herb that grows in Australia. And yarrow medicine is the most recent one to come out. And when my little boy was, and these books weren't yet in publish, there was one story series that I was aware of anyway in the US, but it was outside of my budget and I couldn't afford it. So I started to tell him stories. And during the pandemic, I put those stories to paper. And thankfully, my publisher liked those stories and we were able to put them to print.
Oh, beautiful. Is that the Herbal Fairies by Learning Herbs?
Yes,
Tim Gallagher, Kim Gallagher, I believe it
that's
is.
them.
Yeah, we've got that book series, and my 10-year-old daughter and I have read it over a couple of times now. We absolutely love it.
Oh, how magnificent. Beautiful. It looks like a magnificent series. I'd love to read it one day.
Hmm. I really love the herbs that you've chosen for those books as well. Like in particular, plantain. We've got a lot of experience with the kids. It's our go-to herb for cuts and grazes and bites and all manner of things that afflict the kids. And yeah, it's an absolute go-to. So I love that you've included the plantain because it's a really practical herb to be teaching kids. And you also in the end, I noticed that you include identification to help for kids to identify them, and even incorporate a game. I love your cannonball game that you have in there with the using the seed heads of the plantain and shooting them off. I'd never done that before, and my stepdaughter was really excited to go out and try that yesterday. So yeah, it's really great.
I love to hear that. I love that you've never tried it. And it's really great. I've done a few readings at schools and some donations and things. And you can see the older generation teachers nod their head when I get to that part of the book. And then, I'll point to them and I'll say, "Is this bringing back memories for you?" And they're like, "Yeah, it is. I'd forgotten about it." So this is part of that connection, right? And kids love to play. For me, when I was a kid, we made mud pies and plant potions and stuff like that. But living in Germany, all of these others, because kids are outdoors a lot more in Germany than what they typically are here. And it's a beautiful natural upbringing. And my husband actually passed on this game to our son. And I was just like, that's amazing. And my son will tell everyone and anyone and show them how you can play this game. So that's why this book is really great for multiple ages as well, because it's got a relatable story for the smaller kids, but then you get to this part, the 7, 8, 9 year olds are really engaged too, because they're like, oh, I can go outside and I can do that. That's really cool. So it's really great to see how that, you know, really encourages them to get out with the plants.
Yeah, beautiful. And I really love what you're sharing as well about passing on traditional knowledge through story. In my workshops, I feel like so much of what I teach is through stories, personal experiences with the plants, and plantain in particular. I get to have a lot of different stories, but now I've got a game to share as well, which is pretty cool.
That's beautiful. And you're doing such amazing workshops in your area. I can just imagine how grateful your community are to hear your stories. And like you said, plantain is a staple. And a lot of people don't realize that prior to European seeding of, the most prolific plantain that we see here, Australia has a native plantain. So, that's the other beauty about nature is, there's different species of the same sorts of plants all over the world. And that was one of the reasons I chose to do these particular wild edible and medicinal plants, because I want people to find common weeds and to appreciate them. And these common weeds have either naturalized all over the world, or they are, indigenous to the lands that they grow on. So I think that that's really important.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. They tick a couple of boxes for those of us with the European ancestry as well, because a lot of the plants that have naturalized here and become wild, they come from our ancestral lands, yet they're now a part of the ecosystem here on this land. So it really kind of ties together the worlds a lot to be able to forage, to walk around and forage for plants, but plants that come from our ancestry, from our traditional lands. So yeah, I really love that.
We're all connected.
Most definitely. Yeah, so thank you for sharing about your books, and I will include some links in the description for this episode for any of the listeners that would love to buy your books as well. I'll have some links in the description down there, so look out for that. And I'd love to also thank you for donating two of your beautiful books to the Elder Tree for our raffle hamper that was at our last fundraiser event. I really love your generosity and your community spirit. And I really see you as
My
someone,
pleasure.
I really see you as someone who gives a lot to the herbal movement in Australia. So, yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you. Well, as you also give to your community, we are community, and that's the heart and soul of community. We need to give, we need to share.
Yeah, the beautiful thing about, your book series though is that can extend to communities that may not have herbal educators, or may not have people passing along those knowledges. And I really love as well what you're saying about your books not just touching the children, but hoping to touch the parents as well, and help them with their remembering and their learning as well. So yeah, I love that. Where a book
I
is
hope so.
forever. You're sharing that knowledge, and that's going to be around long after you're gone. So it's kind of really, really ensuring that knowledge becomes accessible beyond just a classroom, or a workshop or something like that.
I hope so. Yeah.
So I have one last question for you today, for the listeners who'll be interested in knowing. I know that you're in the Glasshouse Mountains and that you have some upcoming workshops. So I'd love to hear about any upcoming workshops that you might have, or any that are going to be in the pipeline, that are going to be coming up over the next year or so.
Sure, yeah. So I hold a Take at Your Own Pace How to Build Your Own Medicinal Herb Garden course on my website. This is purchasable from a USA based platform as well as an Australian based platform, because, reaching as many people as I can to encourage self sufficient herbalism. This course takes you through how to grow these beautiful masters of medicine, how to harvest, how to dry them, how to store them, and then how to make them into creams, salves, and medicines. And with that course, my beautiful husband's a software developer, and he created for me an app for the phone to help people make the calculations easier when they're making their tinctures. Pardon me. So that's a take at your own pace course. I'm just going to have a quick drink. Excuse me, sorry. And then, as aside to my herbalist offerings, I hold a lot of shamanic earth-based practices, which are passed to me by my beautiful teachers, the Apaza family lineage in the Andes in Peru, and I'm just starting to offer these to my community. I've just had a short pause because I had a little skating accident a couple of weeks ago and broke my coccyx, so I haven't been able to sit in one spot for too long. But that's healing well, so the dates for those will soon be announced. And I'm available for schools and private business workshops for herbal highlights, if you like. So I recently did one here on the Sunshine Coast, which focused all on yarrow. And we made salves together and we delved right into the energetics and the spirit of the plant as well as its traditional uses. So that gives you a bit of an idea of, how I bring the knowledge of the plants through in these workshops.
Wow, beautiful. That's just so well rounded, just really practical what you're teaching, such valuable skills, everything from building your own medicinal garden to making the medicine, but then also having the energetic and the spiritual connection to the plants. That is so well rounded. I wish that I lived in your community so I could come to your workshops. That's beautiful. So-
Likewise, I think we'd both be hanging out together for sure.
Oh, beautiful. And I'll also, just for the listeners, I will put some links to Alyson's website and to those courses and workshops that she runs as well. Yeah, so I think that's about it for today. Just wanted to say thank you so much for being the very first person ever to be interviewed on the Elder Tree podcast. You're an absolute inspiration to me and to many, and I'm sure that our listeners will love hearing all this beautiful wisdom that you've shared with us here today.
I need to thank you for this beautiful invitation. I feel so honored to be your first guest and so excited for this podcast. It's just such an amazing thing that the Elder Tree and you are contributing to. So thank you so much for having me. And I'm happy to chat anytime. I will chat anybody's ears off about herbal medicine.
Wonderful. Well, hopefully, once we're all up and running with the Elder Tree, we can come and have you as a special guest of honor to come in and bring some of your teachings to this community.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again so much. And I hope that you have a most beautiful day, Alyson.
You too. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Herbal Education segment of the Elder Tree podcast. Stay tuned every new moon as I interview amazing and inspiring herbal educators from around Australia. To find out more about the Elder Tree, you can go to our website, which is theeldertree.org. And through our website, you can subscribe to our mailing list. You can also follow our journey on Instagram and on Facebook. Thank you again so much and have a most wonderful day.